let's start with the AFC. I think it's a little bit more cut and dry. I don't know if you feel the same way I do. I think it's a little bit more cut and dry in terms of the division winners. But the easiest one, I guess, is to start with is the AFC East, right? It's got to be the Buffalo Bills. I get some other teams have started to make moves. Like I like what the Pats did, starting with Mike Vrabel, but in helping, I think they drafted the right quarterback. I like Drake Maye, but it's still like when you look at that division, the Patriots, until we see them on the field, it's kind of hard to see what they're going to do. But it's got to be the Bills. Kind of easy for me.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I do think the Patriots are clearly the second best team in the division, though, but the Bills are going to win the division again.
Yeah, the problem with the Jets and the Dolphins are there's always like I don't know what their culture is. I know what the Patriot culture is. I know what Mike Vrabel's about. We've seen it. He obviously played for the Patriots. And then we saw what he did with Tennessee. So we know what that culture is going to be about. And obviously Buffalo, probably one of the best cultures in all of football right now. Sean McDermott, the one thing he is good at is building a culture. He's not good at beating the Chiefs in the playoffs, but he's good at building like a team that you kind of want to play for. So shout out to him. It seems like he's gotten all worked out over there. So let's slide on. And then the other easy one would be the AFC West. Again, there's a lot to like about San Diego, LA, the Chargers. They're playoff contenders. I think the Broncos obviously are the playoff contenders. I like Bo Nix. I like the fit with Sean Payton. I think that's going to work out great. However, just like the Bills, until somebody can come in and show me otherwise, it's the Chiefs division kind of to lose.
Yeah, I do agree. The Chiefs are going to win the division. I think the Broncos, though, are more suited to like dethrone the Chiefs than the Chargers are. Like we've been saying the Chargers are going to dethrone the Chiefs for the last 3 or 4 years now, and it just doesn't happen, right? Like I don't know what it is with the Chargers. Like they come in with a bunch of hype, and it just doesn't happen. I think the Broncos, continuity on defense, continuity on offense. I think Bo Nix is going to have a really solid second year. I like what they have. Like I think if the Chiefs were to not win the division, it would be because the Broncos do. But I do agree with you that the Chiefs are going to win the division for sure.
Jeremy Shaw says, don't forget, Buffalo is also inspired the now infamous sex toy throwing onto the field play. Yeah, dildo throwing. Who knew that it would take the sports world by storm? Buffalo started. Don't forget where it started. Don't forget where you came from. All right. Nobody was throwing dildos like the Buffalo Bills. Like, it's just infiltrating WNBA and all types of places. I don't know how they're going to get them in now. If I'm a Raiders fan, I'm optimistic. I'm not really feeling the Jacoby Myers stuff. But like, if you look at this division, if you kind of ignore the Chiefs and what they've accomplished and just looked at their roster, looked at who they have, and then looked at them as compared to the rest of the division, this is actually a pretty good division when it comes to, I guess, those alien quarterbacks and elite coaches. I mean, you got Pete Carroll, got John Harbaugh, right? Like you have something pretty nice. It's hard to take anybody else seriously in that division because the Chiefs have been so dominant, and it makes you kind of forget what the other teams have kind of built to compete with Kansas City. And I mean, I know we just gave Kansas City kind of the runaway division, but I would you be shocked if LA made a move? Like, would you really be shocked if the Broncos stepped it up? Like, it wouldn't be as shocking now because I think the Chiefs are a little bit more vulnerable than they have been in the last couple of years. But until we keep saying it every year, they got to hit the wall. Travis Kelce has to slow down. You look at some of the Patrick Mahomes stuff, like statistically hasn't been at his best, except for some reason on third down, he's the greatest. Like if there's a 3rd and 7, Patrick Mahomes is going to convert it. I don't know how he does it. It pisses me off. Maybe a little referee assistance last year more so than others, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he's been amazing on third down pretty much his entire career. So, yeah, I mean, it's got to be Kansas City. But again, I really like what I see from LA, Vegas, and Denver. So that's going to be more interesting than I think people are ready to give it some credit for.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos are going to be very similar to what the Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers were last season, right? Like, all three teams are likely to win double-digit games this season. I wouldn't be surprised. I think all three teams can make the playoffs again this season. I mean, you take a look at it, right? Like, what was it? The Lions were 15-2, Vikings were 14-3, Packers were 11-6, right? Packers could have very easily had a much better record, been at the top of the division, if not for losses within the division, right? Like if you take a look at what the Packers did last season, all of their losses except for one, which was week 1 against the Eagles, came within the division. Every other loss aside from the Eagles was a divisional game. So it's going to be a tough division. I don't know if it'll be the toughest division. I think the NFC North will still be the toughest division in the league this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos all make the playoffs and all win at least 10 games. I think all three teams are just that good. The Chiefs, the Chargers, despite the fact that we've been wanting to crown them early these past couple years, they are still legit. And I'm not, and this isn't even just like the Oregon fan in me. I'm really, really high on the Broncos. I think the continuity of what they have from last year to this year, building where they need to build on to, improve. I think we could see them make a move and be one of the more under the radar kind of teams throughout the course of the season that might win a playoff game and could maybe, make a deep run if things break the way they need to.
AFC South, overwhelmingly, the odds have the Houston Texans. I think that's probably the right move. I mean, the only other team you can possibly make a case for is the Colts, and that largely depends on how well Shane Steichen can make Daniel Jones more consistent with his playmaking, because I know the joke is on Daniel Jones. I get it. I'm not a big Daniel Jones guy by any stretch, but there are some throws in there and there are some plays in there that I look at and I said, yeah, I get the Danny Dimes stuff. Like, I get it. It's just he's just I feel like he's hit his ceiling. I'm not saying that he's like some hidden gem that Shane Steichen can unlock. He obviously was brought to Indianapolis to do what he did with Jalen Hurts, to do with Anthony Richardson. The missing ingredient is Anthony Richardson sucks. And so now he's coaching for his job, and you can't really waste another year with Anthony Richardson. So now you go with the safe choice and Daniel Jones. At least you know what you have, and he's a bit more consistent. Obviously not the best option, but sometimes the safe option isn't the best option, and Shane Steichen has to think about not only his job, but he has to think about Josh Downs and Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor. And we don't have time. Like, I get it. I get the freak athleticism of Anthony Richardson. I get that he can throw 60 yards down the field from his knees. Like, that's cool. And he'll do that once a game and then make you forget that he missed his next 8 passes and finishes the game 10 for 21 with like 3 interceptions. So I'm not going to call Anthony Richardson a bust. There's time. It's his second year. I get it. But if Daniel Jones can make more of those plays that made him Danny Dimes, like, people didn't just make that up. Like, that wasn't he had some games there where it looked pretty good. Specifically the year that they made the playoffs, and which is what he got his contract for. So if Shane Steichen can pull more of that, Daniel Jones can not only resurrect his career, save Shane Steichen's job. And I do believe the Colts do have a good roster outside of quarterback right now. I'm not saying they're a top 5 roster, but they're somewhere in the middle of the pack that's good enough to win games. Like, they have a pretty talented roster. So if they can rack up some wins and get Daniel Jones to just be a game manager and not turn it over as much, I can see the Colts making some type of move against the Texans. But again, CJ Stroud, top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I think he's there. Packers is my team. We'll get to the Packers here pretty.
As they should be. I do agree the Texans are going to win the division. I actually think, though, that the Jaguars are probably more in a better position to probably knock them off than the Colts, just because Trevor Lawrence now has Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter to throw the football to. Now, I have been on record plenty of times saying, as big of a fan as I am of Travis Hunter, I do think at some point it will be in the Jaguars' best interest to have him pick one or the other between wide receiver and cornerback. Not because I don't think he can do it, because I think he absolutely is capable of doing so. But it is really, 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 really hard in the NFL to make it as an elite wide receiver. It's equally as hard, if not harder, to make it as an elite cornerback. To be elite on both sides of the ball in the National Football League is a really, really, really tall task. And I wonder if at some point this season we might see the Jaguars decision makers say, hey, maybe it'd be in our best interest of where we're trying to go, which at this point is winning the division and making the playoffs, if Travis Hunter focuses on just one side of the ball. Yeah. And considering all of the questions surrounding Trevor Lawrence right now, considering how highly touted he was as a prospect coming into the NFL and how his career has been everything but what we expected it to be up to this point in Jacksonville, I wonder if maybe at some point a decision, maybe we say, hey, let's get Travis Hunter to focus solely on being a wide receiver and another elite pass catcher for Trevor Lawrence, as opposed to being the guy who can play on both sides of the ball. I understand that the Jaguars drafted him and intend on him playing on both sides of the ball. And what a great story it would be if he could win offensive and or defensive rookie of the year playing at such a high level. Again, I think he's capable of doing it. But if we're talking about the best entrance of the Jaguars, if he's playing both sides of the ball, you're increasing injury risk.
Yep.
You're increasing fatigue. You're increasing instances where he's not available when you really, really need him to be available, not just on a game-by-game basis, but within games on a situation-by-situation basis. I'm a fan of Travis, and I think he can do it, and I'm sure he will, but I wonder if the Jaguars at some point might say, hey, maybe we want you, Travis, to focus more on being a wide receiver instead of being the guy that can do both, because that's what's in the best interest of our quarterback. And in this instance for the Jaguars, what's in the best interest of their quarterback is also what's in the best interest of their team. They need Trevor Lawrence to be the guy that they drafted him to be, which is a guy who can be the franchise quarterback, the face of the franchise, can win them division titles, make them get into the playoffs, win them playoff games, and hopefully one day win them a Super Bowl. So we'll see.
All right. So I have, just to recap, I have the Bills, I have the Chiefs. We have we skipped the AFC North. I almost forgot. This is the interesting one. I saved it for last. That's why, because it was the most interesting of all of them. I think it was the least cut and dry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this is not my pick. I'm going to say this, and you're not going to like it. But the Steelers are a sneaky pick here. And I get it. It largely depends on the play of Aaron Rodgers. I look at Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, and I see a lot of issues with the Jets, and a lot of them weren't Aaron Rodgers. That's all I'll say. I am of the belief Aaron Rodgers, with the right roster around him, is still very capable of playing high-level quarterback in this current NFL. With that being said, I think they will be a playoff team. I don't think they're going to win the division, but I think they will possibly fight for that last wild card spot. So before I get to my pick, I just wanted to throw that out there. The Browns obviously have no shot. So it's really down to the Bengals and Steelers. The problem, and I'm going to pick the Bengals and Ravens. I'm going to pick the Ravens here, but with an asterisk. If the Bengals offensive line is just competent, and now that Trey Hendrickson's there and they got that defense solidified a little bit, what they worked on this offseason, I know there's some question marks, but it's still Joe Burrow and it's still Jamar Chase and it's still the Bengals. And I gotta say or figure that it's not going to go the same as it did last year, this year as it did last year. So I'm picking the Ravens, not confident, but I'm gonna go with the Ravens here.
I do agree. I do think the Ravens are going to win the division. The only way the Bengals are going to win the division is if they don't start the year off 0-2 again for the third or fourth straight year in a row. Like that's what this is always boiled down to, is the Bengals start the season off losing 2 games they have no business losing. A couple years ago, they lost a game to the Patriots, and then Joe Burrow played the worst game of his career the week after against the Steelers. They started the year 0-2, right? Sometimes they just play 2 good teams back-to-back, and they get outplayed. But I hear you on the Trey Hendrickson thing. I'm not sold on this defense still. It's going to require another all-time great-esque season from Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase offensively for this team to make the playoffs, for this team to even crack double digits. There's no way in the AFC a team, unless it's from the AFC South, because a division winner has to get in. But if you're not an AFC South team, if you don't win 10 games, at least you're not making the playoffs. And
Yeah.
I don't know if the Bengals are going to be able to win 10 games with that defense. I sincerely hope I'm wrong. But Trey Hendrickson had the best season of his career, had one of the better defensive seasons we've seen from a pass rusher in the past couple of years when you look at sack total and sack percentage and individual accumulates compared to just the entire team, pressure, pass, like all that stuff. And he didn't win Defensive Player of the Year, which is fine. But like, then he held out. He got his money. Now he has to like you kind of have to match or surpass what you did last season.
Right.
I'm not 100% on that defense. It's just too much to ask Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins really to carry the Bengals to double-digit wins and a playoff, and a division win. I think it's too much. I do think the Ravens are going to win. The Ravens are by far the best team in this division, not just on paper, but just history tells us that they are over the past couple of years. As long as Lamar Jackson plays all the games he needs to play in the regular season, this team is going to be, a 13-plus win team, be in the running for the top seed in the AFC. We all know the regular season is not the issue for Lamar Jackson. The issue for Lamar Jackson is when it's cold outside and it becomes January. So for the time being, yes, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are going to win the division again, probably as long as he's healthy. But like we always know that. So I like that for them. I have questions about the Bengals. To your point about the Steelers, I would say this. I don't disagree with you that there were a lot of things wrong with the Jets other than Aaron Rodgers. But if you look at what he had in New York, you look at what he has right now in Pittsburgh, the Jets have a better receiving group, right? Sure. They had Garrett Wilson, they had Alan Lazard, they had others. That's better than what the Steelers have right now, right? Sure. They had a slightly better offensive line. Not even slight. I would say there's a little bit of a gap there between the Jets offensive line and the Steelers offensive line. They had a better running game. They had in collectively a better defense. They were at the end of that season when he tore his Achilles early into the week 1 of the season, they were the number 1 defense in the NFL by season's end. It's been a while since we've seen the Steelers get to that point. And the other thing I'll say about the Steelers offseason real quick before we move on to the NFC teams is it seems like every time the Steelers made one move, they did another move that was counterproductive, right? They brought in DK Metcalf, but then they traded George Pickens. They re-signed TJ Watt, but a couple days before that, they sent Minka Fitzpatrick back to Miami. Like, it seems like this should be a team that has one of the best wide receiver duos in the NFL and one of the best defenses in the NFL on paper. And it seems like they just took 2 steps forward and 1 step back. So I'm just interested to see how the roster looks. So I don't know if I can go as far with you as to say that they'll make the playoffs. They'll win 9 games because that's what they do under Mike Tomlin. But again, I'm of the belief that if you're not an AFC South team, you need 10 wins to make the playoffs. I don't think the Steelers are going to get 10 wins this year.
So to recap, we have the Bills, the Chiefs, the Texans, and the Ravens winning those